About VAR. We are now ready to move with VAR. We are going to put a deposit down at the department, and we will then get sponsors to pay for it, but we can't wait. From next week, the ball is rolling with VAR.
Okay, now playtime is over. Let's get to serious discussions. VAR is coming to South Africa. And for me, the question is it really the right time? Are we ready for VAR? In my personal opinion, I don't think so. I honestly am not for VAR right now. I think there's a lot that needs to be considered before we actually implement VAR. I think we just have pressure. There's a lot of pressure that's come from the fans because of some decisions that have been happening on the pitch involving big clubs in big games. And therefore, we are under pressure to look like we are doing something about it. And VAR seems to be like the only thing that's missing. Yes, other countries, other African countries like Morocco and Egypt, they have it. And South Africa as having one of the best leagues, if not the best league in Africa with the most amount of resources, surely we should be leading in that space. Yes, I get that. However, I do not actually think that we are ready to implement VAR. Remember, VAR is a commitment on its own. And it comes with a whole lot of factors that I don't think we have addressed them yet. I think what it will try to do is just cover temporarily or try to hide the actual underlying problems that we do have. And for me, that's refereeing. Getting into my first point, I think the costs definitely overwhelmingly outnumber the benefits that we're supposed to get from VAR. That is for sure right now how I see it, and I don't know if anyone can convince me different. Firstly, we only have supporters returning to the stadiums now, and we know that it's not every stadium that gets full to maximum capacity. So exactly who's funding this bill? Who's going to be funding this bill if fans are not necessarily doing enough as yet? Because as we know, South African football and fans have not necessarily been showing up financially as much as they used to in the past. But I do think we are on a road to recovery because I have not seen as much buzz for the PSL and the Betway Premiership in a long time. And you can see that this season with the number of stadiums that's getting more utilized to capacity, right? So this is definitely going to be something that's sponsored. How are the benefits going to outweigh these astronomical costs? And firstly, let's ask ourselves, how much is this going to cost?
Is it something that we can afford? It's all good and well for everyone to say we need VAR in South African football. What is the cost? Is it something we can carry?
Well, the cost of VAR, we don't have an actual figure for South Africa because it hasn't been published yet. But from our research, looking at global figures, it costs somewhere in the region of between 2.8 to about 3 million rand per stadium to install VAR. And then it costs somewhere in the region of about 300,000 rand per game just to have VAR. Because remember, VAR is a technology that's licensed from Hawkeye Technology Innovations. That technology tracks the movement of the ball, and it uses about 16 cameras in a stadium, which are high-speed cameras, slow-mo cameras, and so on, to track the movement of a ball. And then on top of that, there's about 4 or 5 officials that sit in a booth that specifically look at games, and that's why there is that cost involved.
Oh, so VAR needs 16 cameras, but at FNB, at one of the biggest games of the season so far, Sundowns versus Chiefs, we couldn't have another camera, a second camera to show us another angle of the offside. Or we couldn't have another camera or another angle that shows us the supposed foul that was committed by the Kaizer Chiefs defender when the goal was scored, which led to the goal being ruled out. Or they had to use footage from someone's camera recording in the stands to show us the foul. Come on. Now, all of a sudden, we'll have 16 cameras at every single stadium. And we definitely know that not all stadiums right now would have the infrastructure to carry all these 16 cameras. So I'm so sorry. For me, it seems so far-fetched right now. It should be a long-term project. It should not be rushed. They should take their time to install this VAR. Just to go over the rest of my points, Gayton Mackenzie did come out and did clarify that no, he meant that it would be 80 million once-off cost, but then it will be 70,000 a game, and that equates to almost just less than 17 million per season, and that's not too bad now when you're looking at it actually compared to the figures that the journalist was discussing. I do still think that right now any benefit that can be derived from VAR would definitely not at the moment outweigh the cost. That's for sure in my opinion. Secondly, how do we have money for VAR but our referees are underpaid? I think it's very disrespectful to say to the referees, we can't give you any salary increases, but now we're going to splash all this money on technology, right? So for me, it is a little bit disrespectful. I don't know how else to put it. It just feels like the referees have been lied to. And I was told, going to my next point, I was told that the PSL uses amateur referees. And I don't know what amateur means. It means maybe they can't even go full-time professional. I actually don't know what that phrase means. Does that mean our referees are not up to standard, or they just don't have the capacity to go full-time pro? And for me, it would make sense, because technically then refereeing is not necessarily their main and only job. It's almost like a side hustle. We all need side hustles in Cyril's economy, let's be fair. But with that being said, if we have money to spend on VAR, surely we have money enough to make them full-time referees, give them proper training, so that when we do also introduce VAR, they can be able to use it appropriately. I do think that in general, we have a refereeing problem in South Africa. I do think our referees need a little bit more training, more workshops, more studying, at least a little bit more consensus and cohesion so that we can have consistency in decisions. Yes, I do think that's the main problem. And if we don't address that, it would be the same referees that use this technology. And I don't understand, how do we trust that they'd be able to use this technology appropriately? I think it would create more drama and more unclarity than it's already causing right now. In the Premier League, we see it every weekend that VAR causes more controversy than it brings solutions. We know that people still think FIFA and Argentina and VAR gave Messi the World Cup because of the controversial penalties that Argentina were awarded. So it does not guarantee, VAR does not guarantee clarity. And we know VAR only gets involved when it comes to penalties, offsides, and things like red cards. So if someone gets incorrectly sent off for a second yellow card, it would not intervene. For example, the goal that Pirates scored, the free kick, the quick free kick taken from the incorrect position, or the goal that Stelly scored taken from a wrong position, that throw in, VAR would not necessarily get involved in that, as we understand how VAR gets used right now. So still does not solve a lot of problems, right? Maybe offsides would be great, because then it's the technology, not much to argue about. So it might have disallowed the goal that Sundowns scored. I still think it's offside, by the way. But also, just in general, I would say that, how do we not have money for goal line technology? Maybe if we're introducing technology in South African football, let's go step by step. Let's introduce goal line technology that clearly tells us if the ball has crossed the line or not.
1-0 Chiefs leading at the moment. Lakea against Kune! And Kune safe, no! What say the referee? Is it in or not? And Kune say never gonna happen. Did the ball tickle inside or not? Kune made initial save. Did the ball go back in? We'll have a look at that again. So Kune steps forward, makes the save, rushes through. Oh. Let's have a look at this again. This will be a better angle. We can all decide. They're going over. It went over.
That's the first step. But jumping to VAR, but we don't have goal line technology. Or are we going to get goal line technology and VAR? I don't know. Goal line technology seems like the logical step, and it looks like the first step that's taken everywhere. So I don't understand how we just jumping to VAR without goal line technology. But okay, we move on. So I've already discussed the parameters in which VAR would be used for. Like I said, offsides, red cards, penalties, but nothing else. And I think for VAR, we lose football in its purest form. So obviously, the natural instinct of living in the moment, we absolutely lose that. Every goal is going to be checked. You celebrate and then it gets cancelled. You lose that moment, right? I mean, sometimes it's for the right reasons. Yes, that's fine. But we are losing football in its purest form. And I don't know. For me, I've been enjoying South African football without VAR. I do still enjoy places that don't have VAR, because you get to enjoy football as it was meant to be. So unfortunately, for me, the only thing that I would recommend is that we don't have to introduce VAR right now. We can definitely introduce goal line technology. And if a linesman makes an offside call and it's very tight, it's okay. He's a human being. I'm completely fine with that. If he makes a mistake, that's okay. That's normal. It's part of football. It's part of our conversations, right? But it does not necessarily mean he's corrupt. The only thing I'd say is we need to watch out for corruption. Let's train our referees. Let's train our linesmen. Take them to workshop. Make sure they're always up to date with the rules, and the rules are clear for everyone to understand, and that there's consistency in the decisions that they make. Then we all follow and we understand and we know what to expect in each and every game. However, we do need to take measures to ensure that there's no corruption. There's a lot of people that insinuate that because Betway is the new sponsor, that a lot of results can be rigged. Bare Chiefs ipaisitse game, or things like that, or referee bamnigi envelope. I don't believe that thing actually happens in modern day football specifically. I think the laws and the regulations would be so tight for that, and that the consequences for those referees and those teams that do actually try to be corrupt or try to bribe officials, I think they'd be astronomical. I would expect teams would be literally taken out of the league. So I don't think the owners and the chairpersons of clubs would ever risk that. So because of that, I don't believe that there's actual evidence that happens. I don't think that happens at all. There's no brown envelopes. I just think referees make really horrible decisions, and we can overcome that by more training, expecting better, them also uplifting themselves and doing better, and then we have a good PSL even without a need for VAR. And we can still enjoy football as it was meant to be enjoyed. With that being said, that's my video. I know my points were all over the place, but I'm pretty sure I've covered them all now. I'm sorry, I just have to get to work. I also have a job. I get you guys are not subscribing, so Lena, like the South African referees, I have to find a side hustle. But with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please let me know what your thoughts are. Subscribe, turn on your notifications. I've been very consistent lately, and I've been very present with the PSL this year. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Check out my other videos. I've been making quite a few for you to enjoy. Leave a comment, leave a like, share. Thank you to all those that share my video. I really appreciate all of those people that share my video, by the way. That's my video. With that being said, KG, I'm out.